customers alike are still wanting the same beers, but they just can't drink them in the tap room. So we're now providing them the format to be able to take it home and enjoy it there.
Right. You guys have sort of, a number of you have talked about the fact that the margins go down with a 4-pack, right? Or a 6-pack, however you're packaging your beer. Brett, you and I have talked at length about sort of the economics of being a largely wholesale brewery. What was the realization that, this is a big question, the realization that you guys had about that, and then what were sort of the steps that you took to produce more?
Oh, wow. This
big
is
question,
a big question.
I know. Yeah.
So, okay. So I'm big on like phrases. Before owning a brewery, I had talked to, several, just either as a hobbyist or as a beer buyer or whatever, successful breweries. And they're like, oh yeah, growth is a good problem to have. And I never internalized the word problem. And I didn't fully understand that. I just heard good problem to have, like just the good part. And so like, I think what's interesting is when you grow, you're sort of dealing with everything on all sides, right? And mainly from a business perspective, it's cash. So let's say we're successful in developing wholesale, we're growing faster. Well, with self-distribution, sometimes you get paid right away, but sometimes you have accounts receivable, and then if you work with any partners or any big accounts, the accounts receivable is typically longer. And then you have to buy all of your ingredients and all of your supplies to can everything well in advance of being able to actually do anything, much less ferment it, package it, and then put it in the market. Now I've made a sale, and now the time from the moment that I have laid out the cash, because we don't run much in the terms of like accounts payable, to the time that I've rolled over on those dollars and made that money back is like 90 to 120 days sometimes, right? Depending on the beer, depending on the sales rate, depending on how fast people pay you. And so like, I think when you look at I have all sorts of crazy graphs after COVID, and I'm a big data nerd. And what I think you kind of, like, growing is good, but it comes with a lot of problems. And so you're paying more for more ingredients. So you're spending more, you're sending more money out the door, and you're simultaneously taking longer to get paid at the same time. And so when you're doing that, it's like, even if you're profitable, or your stated net income is going up, you're still scrambling. You're like, where am I going to get the money to pay for all of this? Or like, how do I get the money back from people who owe it to me? And that's kind of one of those like interesting things that you learn is you can read it, you can hear it, you can't understand it until you experience it, until you experience like a legitimate cash crunch where you're like, wait a minute, it feels like I'm doing everything right, but why do I feel like I'm so scared about how much money is in the bank account? And I think, and that's kind of like an interesting phenomenon associated with the production model, much more so than the taproom model, because the receivable end of things in the taproom is, if not instant, we'll say it's like 5 days, right? So maybe I have to produce my goods, and then it takes me, we'll say like 25 to 30 days to produce the goods. It takes me, maybe 25 to 30 days to sell the goods on a batch, or, depending on your batch size, whatever. But, we'll say, but when you make the sale, you get the money same day or the next day or 2 days later, whatever. When you make this sale in wholesale, you usually don't see that money for a while. And so that's kind of like the thing that was the biggest learning lesson for me in understanding a production brewery model, is just how excessive the swings are. You know, I kind of look at it like this. So like we've talked about our walk-in a lot, and it's almost like if you think of like the fulcrum of a pendulum, right? And the smaller the fulcrum, the more extreme the swings are going to be. And so when we have like a really big wholesale week versus a really small wholesale week, the impact in terms of how much beer that looks like in the back from week to week is so huge. But from a dollars standpoint, it doesn't seem as huge like on a piece of paper looking at a graph, you know? Like you walk into the brewery and you had a slow week in wholesale and you're like, oh my God, we have so much beer on hand. And then you have a big week in wholesale and you're like, where'd all the beer go? And we're talking about like 1 week to the next week, you know? And so I think that's what is interesting about the more you grow, the more intense those swings become. And I think that's, you know, I mean, we can all cite stories of other breweries that were otherwise successful that ended up opening another bigger facility or something and then ended up having to change or close or sell it to somebody. And it's I would guess, I don't know this, but I would guess it's because they ran into a gigantic cash crunch with that growth. You know, and that was sort of the biggest eye opener for me. You know, I think that the second biggest kind of production model versus taproom model thing that I've learned is that, you know, whatever people want to say to you in your taproom, they generally care about you and they generally, you know, are motivated and like your brand to begin with. You know, when you get out into the big mean world out there, you know, you get some, I think in some ways, more meaningful feedback. But you know, it's not, because you're on the shelf against, you know, pick your number, 200, 300, 500 other people. And so, you know, people really don't get to experience that sort of on-site experience. And so it may be good marketing, a cool label gets them to pull the trigger. But after that, they have to love the liquid, you know, and if they don't, then, you know, your beer's not going to move through that spot, you know? And so I think that's the other thing. It's like, we look at our production sales on a weekly basis. And it's like, even if you had the greatest week on Friday, come Monday, like you're starting all over in my world. Because I think you have to have that mentality. Not because I like to think I'm not a complete crazy person, but I do think that really high level of intensity and the competition forces you to be thinking like, okay, like what are we doing this week? You know, and I think that's a big learning lesson too. You know, like if you're not, there's so much competition that if your sales rep or you yourself are not touching base with your account, saying thank you, checking in, seeing how things are going, not because anybody has like malicious intent, but there will be, you know, 50 other brewers walking in and saying, hey, you know, you want to try my beer? And so I think you kind of have to maintain all of that while you're sort of trying to hold on to cash to manage the growth. So I don't know, that was probably a long-winded answer, but
no, we covered a lot of ground there. It's very nice. You know, I'm curious, you've kind of drastically changed your approach. You know, Jake, you know, Crooked Run, from outward appearances, you know, you said you're making about the same amount of beer. Have you had to change where you send it? Are you sending more to accounts? Are you trying to bring in new customers, or are you able to basically sustain off of, you know, your existing sort of, you know, fan base that you've built up?
Well, yeah, so we, you know, obviously draft sales dropped to nothing at first. And they've kind of come back a little bit, but not really. But draft sales and taproom picked up, and we're actually a little bit over what we were before last year on weekends at least. But to your point, We definitely attracted new customers because we have outdoor seating, and it's really been that simple. Our Sterling location has 2 restaurants and a cocktail bar, and once people try it out, especially because we do a lot of sours, a lot of people were like, "Oh, I didn't think I liked beer, but my friend took me to this place, and I actually do like this kettle sour, and I actually like beer now, and they have a place to go to." And so we picked up a lot of new customers. It's been pretty surprising. But otherwise, it's kind of sort of been the same. Just selling beer out of our tap room has always been 90% of our sales, and that's kind of still the way it is. Sending beer and distribution, I send our core beers out, and then everything else is available upon request. I try to do per accounts. I've never tried to be one of those people that's like, oh, you gotta support our cores to get our interesting stuff. I just tell everybody, like, you want some beer from us, you see some on Instagram, just reach out to me. I'll make sure you get it. But it's just so few and far between. There's just draft sales restaurants are, it's less people now, and it's less volume.
Right.
I think it's just gonna get worse, honestly.
Yeah. Well, I'm curious about that. I want to pocket that for just a second. Tim, in your direction, I had a conversation with Brandon Skull of DC Brow recently for an article that went up today on a crystal Weizen that they just put out called Vote. But we talked a bit about their COVID response, and he said retail sales experienced a slight bump, were the words he used. Not I think some media accounts initially had said, oh, people are running to stores and they're stocking up on beer. What sort of has been Port City's experience with, how much you've been able to sort of grow your sort of wholesale either footprint or throughput, I think is a term that Brett likes to use, in stores. How do you even attempt, or do you not, to make up for those 50% of keg sales that you're losing?
Yeah, so again, we were lucky to have that canning line, so we were able to put even our smaller brands into package and get it to people, just like everyone else mentioned. But we saw a big increase in our national accounts, so the grocery stores, Total Wine, and convenience stores this year are actually up 33.5% for us. A huge part of that is also our distributor just got behind our brand and really put us as a priority. And now, those grocery stores represent about 82% of all off-premise sales. So that's what carried us through the first couple of months of this, is being able to find our product on the shelf of a Giant, Safeway, Whole Foods, and just being able to fulfill that demand with having both the high-class bottling line and the new canning line. And independent stores, the smaller ones, also saw, moderate growth. Obviously never as much as we'd like, but for the year, our off-premise is up 28%. So that's helped to, minimize the loss that we're experiencing with that draft. But it definitely doesn't make up for, losing 50% of your business for, a good portion of the year, and still, clawing away to get that back. So yeah, I mean, it was positive to see that response, but it definitely, didn't close the gap for what we've lost with our, accounts that we've spent the last 9.5 years supporting and building trust with, and that just got taken away overnight. And with that, just like everyone else, we had all these kegs of beers that the tasting room wasn't able to put in growlers quick enough to get it before it expired. So
right,
definitely helped for a little bit, but was still tough to recover from.
Right. Matt and Emma, as you have sort of realized, okay, we need to sell more beer in cans. You were a year and a half years old. Have you looked at like, okay, we need to widen our distribution footprint and start sending beer elsewhere? Or are you thinking about like, no, we need to just better, make sure that breweries, like accounts that are closer by, know that they can get more beer from us? How have you sort of changed your approach to who gets your beer? Maybe that's a good way to put it.
So I don't think we've drastically changed our approach. We've definitely seen an increase in the retailers and the wholesale accounts that we have, like off premise, and we really have been focusing in on getting them as much beer as we can physically put out. But our to-go sales from the tap room also, you kind of get. They've definitely carried us during the last while. So we're at a stage we probably do. Even as we're open in the tap room, we probably do 50-50 draft and to-go beer, like down the middle. So that's been taken up a lot of the cans, and we have concentrated on our accounts, and we are looking to expand that. But we just haven't had the product to go out, because it's a lot of it is going to our customers who buy through our online store or local delivery. So not. Sorry, I didn't hear you, Phil.
No, sorry. I said that seems like a best case scenario, right? Like if you're not sitting on product, right? I mean,
no, we definitely haven't had to sit on product, and where we get to a situation that we need to move, some product out that we can't do through our own accounts. We just before COVID hit, signed up with a distributor that specializes in smaller craft breweries. So I think 3 or 4 times during the period since COVID hit, we've sent some beer out to them, because they hit up other areas in Maryland that we just haven't got the reach to get out to.
A question that I won't direct to anyone in particular, because I don't know if anyone has an appropriate answer for it. What is going on with aluminum, right? So we talked about crowlers earlier. Is anyone dealing with the effects of a diminished supply of aluminum since more and more breweries are putting all of their beer into cans, right? I was listening to someone talk about this. I think it was actually DC Brow. Like breweries were like dusting off their canning or their bottling line if they hadn't used it in a while. Is anyone dealing with that, or is it an increased cost? Like what's going on there that your average consumer, who's just buying your beer in the store, might not be aware of?
I think we all are, Phil.
Are you? Okay, good. Well, tell me about it.
I don't know. Everyone else doesn't want to say.
Thanks for being the first one in the water, Emma.
Sorry,
Matt would be the best one to talk about that, but yes.
Yeah, I'm having like maybe 2 phone calls a day, just going, talking to our canning providers, and just seeing what options we have. We've had a few options where beer may sit in the tank an extra week, which isn't ideal. So now we're sort of having to adjust our hopping schedules, knowing that we're going to get a shipment. Most shipments that we're promised either don't arrive, or we get half the shipments. And then it's kind of like we just don't know what's coming next week. So it's a little bit difficult to schedule and sort of rotate our tanks efficiently when we don't know quite where the product's going to end up, or at what time it's going to. So that's been pretty tough for us. Just obviously having a product to sell at the end of it.
Yeah, well,
I
that
think
sounds like a nightmare. Sorry, go ahead, Emma.
well, it's pretty rough because you think COVID's given and 2020's given you everything that it could possibly give, and then it's really, I think, gonna corner us because there's not many more options of vessels to put our beer in right now that will actually be able to sell to the public or anywhere else. So, I think if it does continue, production in a lot of breweries is going to either have to slow down or we're going to end up with a glass shortage. I don't know. I think we should all just stop eating canned tomatoes and, free up that extra, as I would say, aluminium.
Yeah, I mean, that appears to be coming at the worst possible time, right? Like draft sales are going to go down as outdoor seating goes away, right? It is, we'll say Jake here. Jake, is the approach right now, let's try as much as humanly possible to run up the score on the amount of money we're taking in, knowing that we're going to get hit in late November and we're going to lose our outdoor seating. Or maybe you have plans for heat lamps or whatnot, but how crucial is the next 2 months for your business? Not that you're not trying to sell as much as beer as possible, in general, but how crucial are these next few months for you in terms of draft sales and whatnot?
Yeah, it's 100%. Like you said, just make as much money now while you can. We're out in the heat, but it's not gonna. I think this winter is gonna be pretty bleak, but I'm usually kind of a pessimist and a warrior when it comes to stuff. I I have to say I don't want to get political, but I don't see any relief packages coming. And the real damn shame about this is good people are going out of business. Breweries are better situated with higher margins and something that can be taken to go. Just as an aside, anybody who is selling anything to go has done okay during this. If you're a restaurant and you sell food to go, your pizza place, your office lunch place or whatever, brewery selling cans or whatever. But without any relief in sight, it's really going to be bad. I also own a restaurant, and I know just how bad it is. So make hay while the sun shines, and hopefully, we make everybody who can makes it through till spring, and we go back to, I don't know, maybe can sales and outdoor seating can persist a bit through the winter, but I don't really see it.
Right.
Sorry to be a downer.
No. I'd rather everyone be honest here and let people know the reality of this, because there is sort of a narrative of beer is booming, and it doesn't exactly sync up with the realities of lower margins and less product. Jake, you had mentioned government assistance, so no, I'm going to go to Brett here. So like what talk to me a little bit, Brett. I know that you, like maybe other people here, were able to take advantage of the paid protection program, the PPP, and also you were able to take advantage of another government program. Talk to me a little bit about sort of what you're able to, what sort of government assistance you were able to get, what that was able to do for you, but then also what maybe the lack of forthcoming federal assistance, how that will impact you.
Yeah, this is kind of this is an interesting topic. I think at one point I had a spreadsheet of like every available program where you could apply and get money at the county, the state, and then the federal level. And I think, and even beyond those programs, we actually did like a Explorers Club raise, which was a membership program that enabled people to receive discounts every time they come to the tap room, but also to be able to get 2 6-packs a month or 2 4-packs or, you know, whatever 2 packages of beer of their choosing. So we specifically got the PPP, we got the EIDL, which is the SBA Economic Injury Disaster Loan. And that was the one that was made available. And I think it eventually pretty much made it nationwide, but the DC metropolitan area was one of the first to sort of be approved as, it was mostly, it seemed to me like it looked like major cities, kind of all over the country. And so as soon as, you know, I got wind that that would be a possibility of something to apply for, you know, I pretty much laser focus just did that. Like that just kind of became my job for a while. Not only those 2 programs, but every imaginable program. You know, I like to think that we applied for everything. Some of them said yes, some of them we did not get. But it was interesting because, you know, there were a lot of, and I sat on some panels for the local versions, and there was a lot of like fairness questions about how this money sort of ended up getting distributed. But we wouldn't be in the position that we're in today without that opportunity, you know. And I think I think what it did in our case, and I can't speak for everyone, what it did in our case was, or at least what I think the best laid intent was from these funding packages, was for businesses to continue to be able to exist, but then also to continue doing what they would be doing as a business, right? And so this changed the way in which we grow, but it allowed us to keep growing. And so it was sort of like, I think it was trying to take the fear, the funding was trying to take the fear out of continuing to operate. And it was trying to bring people back. You know, I mean, I remember being incredibly emotional when this first went down, and we had 40 employees and in one day went down to 10. And I didn't know how long we were going to have those 10. But then with the PPP and the EIDL, in the sense that all of this stuff was going to be coming online, we were able to gradually bring people back, and we went from 40 and now we're back to just shy of 30. But, you know, different world, different makeup of personnel, more production employees at this point in time. Obviously less tap room. Thankfully, a handful of them were pretty part-time. But yeah, I think if you don't ask, the answer is no. And sometimes asking is not enough. It's often the squeaky wheel gets the grease, right? And I think that was a guiding principle for me, was that if I just kept emailing and calling and contacting anyone and everyone who would bother to listen to me or not, and just get tired of hearing from me, that I would sort of encourage them to say, hey, look, there's a business need here. And we did that with our landlord. We did that with everyone. It was we were trying to do it on every front, but specifically the money that we got saved our life. You know, I don't see how we would be anywhere near where we are today. Like, I think we would have slowed significantly to a point where, you know, I don't see how we could be where we are at the age of our business, having only been 1 year old. It's not, you know, it's not like we've been in business for 7, 8, 10 years, and we're able to have any kind of cash reserves or anything to sort of think back upon. I will say that specifically the process for the EIDL, which is the Economic Injury Disaster Loan, that was a lengthy process. Like, lengthy enough that we had to have like our lawyer involved, and it was like, you know, not only signing up for it, but also on the backside of just getting through the paperwork was like several days worth of work. And I like to think I'm like a fairly efficient worker, so I think it was the mountain of paperwork was like, I'm not even kidding you, like this. You know, and so it's still a little scary, right? Because ultimately some of it is forgiven money, but a lot of it is also like, although affordable, a loan. So at some point in the future, this money comes due again. And so I think that's kind of where we sort of like saw an opportunity, and it was for us, it turned into not like grow because we want to grow. It turned into grow or die, and that's it. Like those are your two options, it seemed. You know, it was like either grow or, but that's partially the makeup of our business and how we're structured, you know. And I think in the best of times, our location being right on the metro and in a downtown area is highly valuable from a taproom perspective. In the worst of times, I mean, it's not the kind of rent you want to pay for a full production model, you know? So I don't know. I'm not sure if I answered anything or if I just talked in a giant circle.
No, you answered a better question than I asked, which is all I can ask for. That was great. Tim, from sort of, you know, Port City side of things, you know, we've talked about, you know, this aluminum issue, which, you know, I know you guys are still, although it's funny, I would say that, like, you know, you're doing, you know, mostly bottles still, but your small canning run is probably more aluminum than a lot of small breweries use, right? What are sort of like, for the way you see it, what are the big challenges that Port City is facing right now and will continue to face for as long as this is going on?
Yeah, I think one of our early successes was our ability to plan. And this is a year you can't seem to plan for anything. It seems that every time we started understanding the market trends, that the market trends would change. And with, you know, the cold weather coming just around the corner, I think that's the next kind of hurdle that we have no idea if people will stop going to these outdoor seatings, if, you know, a heater's enough to satisfy the consumer to keep drinking the draft beer. So yeah, I think there's you know, a lot of challenges that we're not sure exactly what they are, and that's the most challenging part. Now, we are in a healthy situation where we can adjust quickly as needed. From bottling, if, you know, if cans do run out, we do have our bottling line as a you know, I would never call that bottling line a backup plan.
Yeah, how much is that bottling line?
We spent a good $2 million on it, so it's it's definitely our plan, and got us through a lot. But you know, with the bottling line does have restraints, like our integral moved from bottle to cans this year because we weren't selling enough integral to keep the integral fresh for what the bottling line demanded for a run. So we can't do our smaller lager series in there. We'd have to order more labels than beer we make. So yeah, there's a lot of challenges there. Yeah, it's, you know, I think, you know, everyone on this panel fights to put out the freshest beer possible, and you kind of have to guess to what vessel to put it in, how to get it to the consumer, and everything just keeps changing. And it seems like, you know, as soon as we feel like we have a grasp on it, it's different. So yeah, it's tough. You know, it went from having too much in bottles to, you know, we were short on draft once people started ordering draft again. So yeah, just if anyone knows the future, we'd love to hear it.
I've had some people on this, you know, on the side in the comment section talk about what they've been sort of doing to, you know, support local breweries more. I'm curious, Matt, you know, if I'm, you know, I want to support, I want to make sure that my favorite breweries make it through this, right, in the most dire terms possible. Like, as a single consumer, what can people be doing, right? Like, I only have so much disposable income that I can spend on beer. Like, how can people listening right now help the breweries that they love?
Yeah, I guess where possible, buy direct from the brewery. If you don't feel safe in the taproom environment, obviously we're all in this together. We have to take precautions and be safe, but obviously buying direct from the brewery is going to be the best margin. Obviously coming from a keg is going to be better, but if it's to go cans, that's probably the next best option for us. So yeah, just in terms for us specifically, that would be the best way to support, and I'm sure that would be, follow the similar lines to the other team here.
Yeah, is there anyone else who wants to weigh in there? Like, I remember, obviously, when this first happened, we didn't know how long it was going to last for. Obviously, it has wildly exceeded our expectations in the worst way possible. But, there was sort of this initial reaction of like, buy gift cards to help breweries get through this. Is there anything else people can be doing? Is it like, spreading the word on social media? Like, what are the ways that sort of that help you that that are in addition to what Matt said, which is buying beer from the brewery? If any, open to the panel if anyone has any thoughts.
I'll weigh in. Hello?
You're good.
Okay, cool. Yeah, so to Matt's point, and then also bring your friends by. I think a lot of people are just discovering breweries and wineries for the first time during this. Maybe it wasn't something they were really into, but there weren't a lot of options as to who was open and who had seating and stuff. But I really think that a lot of us are making beer that's pretty accessible, even if like somebody thinks they're not a beer drinker. We probably have something that'll satisfy them. And if you can bring a group of friends by, that's even better. And beyond that, don't just go to breweries. Go to, instead of getting fast food, support your local businesses. It's something that I love fast food, but like I try to remind myself all the time, like just don't do it. Go support somebody local, whatever you can do. But I also like don't feel any pressure because not everybody's in a financial situation where they have disposable income. So like don't sweat it. I appreciate anybody's support, but it's not up to people to keep us afloat. And then furthermore, like maybe some people should watch how much they drink. Just if you feel supporting your local brewery is also destroying your liver, like maybe just take a little break.
That was a subtweet at me, but I'm not going to take it personally.
No.
Hey Phil, I do have something to add to that.
Please.
All of the above are awesome and they make us feel great on a daily basis. People coming along and the amount of people that have asked us and inquire about how we're doing every day is really heartwarming. But I think just on a different level, we've talked about federal assistance and at Astrolab we don't usually get political, but I think restaurants and the hospitality industry are in a world of hurt right now, and I think just as a citizen to talk to your representatives about what's happening and kind of try and understand what's happening and how they can weigh in to keep the places that people love on the local high street open at the end of this. I think that's a really important piece, and I really think for a lot of businesses that's the only thing that's going to keep the doors open and the heat on.
So what is that? Like what should people be advocating for?
There's so many different levels. I think a restaurant is very different from a brewery. We can do a lot of to-go sales, but most businesses right now are really struggling to make rent payments and that's the big killer. It's like I said, we're all working for much less, and when your business plan is set out in the next 5 years is based upon a certain degree of certainty on the profit you're going to make, and you've signed a lease and signed up for loans and all of the above because you believe in what you're doing and that it's going to succeed, and under normal circumstances it would have all gone hunky-dory. And now a lot of people are just in a place where, yeah, they can keep the doors open, but not necessarily pay bills.
Yeah.
And I think, I think our representatives really need to take that on board and find a way to, whether that's a rent moratorium or some way to help out to pay those parts of the costs of doing business, because equally landlords are not the big bad wolf. They also have to pay their bills. So it just trickles down from the highest level really, and it affects the whole economy. So that's beyond anything that we can do on our own, or you can do as a beer consumer, but you can definitely talk to your representatives to make them get on board and really take some solid actions to keep businesses, small businesses in business.
Right.
If I can kind of add on to what Emma is saying, I think, to sort of just take it to like a real world example, in-home delivery service is something that has been made available in the state of Maryland. And, policy informs money and money informs policy. And there's this sort of back and forth there. And I think either looking at in-home delivery or looking at direct shipping or looking at self-distribution, or the more that you can either advocate to your local legislators or giving small breweries more ways in which to sell, right? Because it's sort of it's up to every single one of us as a business to figure out how to be successful with the tools that are available to us. But the more tools that we have, the more opportunity we have to succeed. And so I think using your dollars to support sort of newer and novel ways of selling beer, but then using your advocacy to highlight that that's a new and important way for you. I know it. I think what will be the most interesting to witness over the next several months is sort of how the in-home delivery service goes, right? I think for a large contingent of people, it was a sensational thing. It sounded cool. They wanted to do it. And they have since sort of gone back out to the world and kind of, maybe they don't feel comfortable sitting in a tap room or outside a tap room, but they'll go buy the beer at the brewery now. But there's still a handful of people that may choose for a good long while to only order through delivery because that's where their comfort zone is. And so, I tend to believe that there's a whole sort of new or slightly differentiated market out there in that form of beer sales. And so, and I think in-home delivery, but like self-distribution, there's so many ways in which we're able to organize our business that didn't exist as little as 5 or even 10 years ago, that are really important to us now. Our online business has, like, who knew that a brewery would be focused on not only online sales, but online sales of beer specifically. I would be pretty upset if tomorrow somebody said to me, "Oh, hey, Brett, so sorry, you can't sell beer online anymore." I'd be like, "What?" I've come to depend on that now. And the status of that stream of revenue is a little fragile right now. It's not, there's nothing guaranteed about our ability to continue that. So I think, just trying to add to what Emma said, like, just use your sort of your dollars and your advocacy to keep as many avenues open as possible. That would be my take on it.
Can I add to that too? I agree with everything you said, Brett. I just being really frank, without any government relief, there's going to be just massive closures over this winter. I'm surprised that more places haven't closed. Sorry, one second. Fire truck. It's really a damn shame because I love restaurants. I'm at a restaurant right now, and without any relief, it's something that people need to understand. As breweries, we sell to restaurants a lot. Draft sales, keg sales to restaurants are higher margins than cans. Um, and furthermore, it's kind of how we advertise, how people have a chance to try our beer. And we all have relationships with restaurants that we really love, and a lot of them are in dire straits. Without any sort of government relief, there's going to be massive, massive closures. And I was up in New York last week, talking to the owners of this great beer bar there. They're doing 20% of their regular sales. Well, you know what? Most places can't even take a 10% hit. It's just unsustainable. Without any action, there's going to be massive closures, and it's going to be good people who did everything right going out of business. So, like you said, demand action from Congress, because frankly, this is bullshit. It really is. If there's not a PPP round 2, well, just say goodbye to a lot of your favorite spots.
Yeah, that's unfortunately the blunt reality of the situation we're dealing with. Perhaps as a means of, I wouldn't say focusing on the bright side, because it's obviously very bleak, but focusing on a bright component. Is there anything, and I'll leave this kind of open to the group, is there anything that you've sort of experienced in your reaction with consumers, with your fans, as a act of kindness or generosity during all of this that sort of stuck with you?
I'll go ahead and chime in here. I think everyone that takes the time to thank us for the extra measures that we do to make sure that we can serve our beer safely through the tap room personally means a lot to me. Everyone on the panel here knows it's a lot harder to serve a beer these days. You can't just open your doors and allow everyone to come in that wants to come. In the beginning, we were setting up tents every day. It felt like we were setting up for one of our big festivals for 20 tables to come by, and just the customer appreciation, just thanking us for being there, thanking us for putting our health at risk essentially by being out every day and serving you the beer and taking the precautions we do. It makes up for a lot of the people that don't appreciate what we do, and that can get discouraging. But just having people say, this is the only place we come. This is where we feel comfortable. We've put a lot of hard work to make sure we can get you our product, and we obviously will always appreciate you coming by, pandemic or not. But if it doesn't have to be money wise. Just boost our morale and let us know that you see our hard work and you appreciate the steps of safety and precaution. And we'd love to be able to open our doors and have thousands of people in, but unfortunately right now everyone has to do their part to make sure we can get back to that again. So yeah, I just think being a decent human is more important than anything these days. Everyone's had a different reaction to this pandemic, and just human connection is much more hard to come by, and do it at a safe distance, but make sure you appreciate everyone that's out there, your grocery store worker, everyone that has had to stay open throughout this and hasn't had the luxury of working from home. It's not always by choice that we're out there serving. A lot of people need this income, and we really do appreciate those that come by and just make our days with just a simple thank you.
I would add to kind of what Tim said, like a couple kind words at this moment in time seem to have an outsized positive impact. So just to hear from somebody in an email or in person, like, wow, you guys rock, thanks so much for what you do, makes a huge difference. Like it really does.
Well, I wish I could hug you guys right now, but obviously we're online and it's not allowed. But I will just go full DJ Khaled and say I appreciate you. So there's two things I want to do, and I'm going to go in reverse order. The first, which we'll save for last, is that I want everyone on here to sort of talk about if there's anything going on at the brewery or new releases that you want to kind of plug. But before we get there, that's going to be our last thing. Apparently, we have the ability to open up questions to the audience, or maybe that's something that we can get in the chat. Amy had mentioned that. So if you have any questions, feel free to fire them into there, or if there's a way to do that otherwise. You know what we'll do? Plug your questions into the chat, and while you do that, we will allow everyone the opportunity to sort of talk about what they have coming out. Astrolab, I am going to start with you because you guys went full New Zealand this week, and I fucking love it. I had to decide if I wanted to curse, and it was worth it. Tell me what you guys got going on at the brewery right now.
Okay, I'm going to let Matt talk you through those particular beers.
Yes.
And I'll talk a little about our anniversary coming up.
Yeah, and maybe some of the outside developments too, Emma. But beer-wise, we released our Tahi New Zealand Pilsner. Switched it up this year just to make it a little bit softer. Kind of utilizing, Nelson, Riwaka, Motueka hops. Kind of like the trifecta of, kind of New Zealand hops, as you could say. Big dry hop with Riwaka. It's tasting pretty good. And so we're pretty stoked with that one. And then we're sort of reintroducing our sour series. It's called Kawa. It'll be something that we'll be doing more often. It was something that we had penned for earlier in the summer, but due to COVID, we kind of only got a couple of runs on our sours. But we've now fully committed to it. And our first drop, along with the Pilsner, was a Bijo sour. So Bijo is a kind of a Kiwi thing where, like, as kids, you'll just, gorge on them after school, on a random bush on the side of the road type thing. So it's definitely harkened to the past, but it tastes delicious. It's got all the tartness that you'd want, and we're pretty stoked with it. And we'll be releasing another sour next week, along with some new IPAs, triple IPA, new double IPA, leading up to our anniversary and on our anniversary weekend, which will be coming up in the week of the 23rd of October. So we're pretty excited about those beers. We'll be brewing them next week to hit fresh. And Emma will be able to talk about some of our expanded seating options for us to be able to do things safely and try to accommodate as many people as possible.
I do love the way Matt says, just a bit of Nelson and a bit of Riwaka and a bit of Motueka.
If I could just say, I love how Matt says Riwaka, because I always said Riwaka, and then I heard Matt say Riwaka, and I said, that's how I'm saying it from now on, because that sounds way cooler. Anyway, sorry, Emma.
Yeah, so Matt kind of went over our anniversary. We haven't got all of our... It's like we said earlier, it's kind of hard to make any plans beyond 2 weeks in advance, but we're, hoping to have some ticketed sessions to come along to, and, an anniversary package and a bunch of new beers coming out that he's been definitely putting a lot of effort into making some of, some great tasty and hop forward beers. But in the next week, we've been given permission to extend our patio onto the sidewalk. So we've put a lot of work in the last week to making that happen. So we should have pretty much most of our block, since some of our neighbours are not operating right now. So we'll have a nice little outdoor patio garden set up and be able to, you know, bring some more of our team back to make the most of it while we can in the next couple of months while the weather is favourable. So we're excited about that. We don't have massive outdoor seating, so, you know, the cold weather coming up, I feel like it's not going to affect us as much as, you know, those places that are really relied on outdoor seating in the summer. I think where it will affect us is if we have to close doors and windows and then people are really not comfortable being in an enclosed space. But up to now, we've been able to keep everything open. So this extra seating for a couple of months is really going to, you know, help us, help like get us through the winter that's ahead.
Right.
So yeah, we're pretty excited about the, you know, the New Zealand influences in the beer, and then the new beers coming out for the anniversary and being able to have more people come along and enjoy them.
Right. Tim, what's going on in Port City aside from an inaugural Hefeweizen, which I was really surprised to see.
Yeah, the Hefeweizen was a big hit, and so we actually were able to make that Hefeweizen because we rebrewed our Colossal 9. So we are going to be releasing our anniversary beer in the next 2 weeks. That was originally slated to come out in February, but it didn't pass our sensory panel. So our anniversary beer that everyone missed in February will be released early October. So we're pumped about that. You know, a lot of people are, you know, we're surprised that we didn't put out an anniversary beer this year, but you know, with having less optimal wit in tanks, we had a tank open for our Colossal 9. So that's very exciting. You know, we didn't want to miss one. And then also next week we're gonna release a new hoppy brown ale, which is brand new to the lineup as well. And I've been pitching this to Jonathan Reeves for a while, so that's my personal excitement. I love drinking a brown ale come fall time. So I'm excited to taste what he's done with that. And then, you know, the lager series continues with our Raukmierzen, which is always either, you know, a fan favorite or just people think we've messed up big time with a smoked lager. But seeing that in a 16-ounce can, I personally am pumped for. You know, and it's got a good subtle smoke to it, warm you up on the patio for those cooler nights as well. And then the Tmave Pivo after that, which that was a new beer we had last year, and I think we only had that beer for a week and a half. 30 barrels of it just went super quick. So we doubled that up this year. And again, that's going in can as well. So those 4 beers coming out, you know, are all very exciting in their own right. So yeah, there's going to be a lot of different beer, at least in my fridge, to keep tasting. So,
Jake, what's going on in Crooked Run? And I would also add the question on everyone's mind: where are you?
I'm at Shelter right now.
Oh, no kidding. Okay, so Shelter is the new neighborhood restaurant group bar, everyone.
Yeah, so we have our Oktoberfest this Saturday, which should be cool. We've got a bunch of lager releases and our half and cans and stuff. And then coming up, the things I'm most excited about, like really solid Black Friday stout and barley wine releases. Really excited about that. I'll just drop it here. We have a surprise release on Halloween for barrel aged stout that should be awesome. Double barrel aged Calvados barrels and Heaven Hill. That's gonna be good. And then the thing I'm most excited about is in December we're dropping our first 2 method traditional. You can't call it lambic, but it's everything, you know, that lambic beer stylistically is. we've got a Framboise and a Creek. They're both made with all Virginia malt, all Virginia fruit, and all Virginia yeast and bacteria. 100% spontaneous, turbid mashed, and they still got a bottle condition for a while, but we just finished fruiting and bottling them, and I think they're going to be good. And then in spring, we have our first goose coming out. And this, like, I couldn't be happier to be doing this. It's everybody at the brewery, like, this is our passion. And, it's taken us a while to get to this point, but I don't think there's a lot of breweries in our area doing them. And I just love to be able to offer those. And as a home brewer, this was like kind of my dream to be able to do it. So I'm just really happy about that.
Thanks, Jake. Last but not least, Brett, hit us.
I'm excited about what everybody's doing, but because it's a small universe, it just so happens that my little sister works at Crooked Run, and I went out to
and
go
your
visit
fiance
her.
works at Astrolab, right? This is it's a family panel.
Yes, I'm surrounded by beer and women in beer. But from what I gathered, I got to see and smell some of the barrels that Jake was talking about, and I'm excited for his lambic and goose releases, just based on the little the smell that I was able to get out of the airlock on some of those barrels. So that was pretty cool experience for me.
Thanks, man.
So Jake, I'm excited for your beer.
Hell yeah, man. And we love Lene so much. And I'm sorry I keep missing you. Every time you come by.
No. It's all
dude,
I get it. Yeah. But yeah, so I'm excited about Jake's beer, and then for my own beer, we kind of have a crazy schedule coming up. I do sort of believe there's a time to do stuff right now with the tap room, and so we're trying to line up a pretty epic fall schedule. We have a new beer or 2 new beers every single week, going all the way on through to December 10th. There's a couple different ones, but we have like an Imperial version of our Squeegee Master. We're doing our Coffee Chronicle, which is really popular. We're doing like vanilla latte version as well. It'll probably be taproom only. One thing that is kind of interesting is last we talked, Bill, we were talking about doing a few beers in 16-ounce cans. As a byproduct of this can shortage, we have found that it's easier to get our hands on 16-ounce cans than it is 12. So we're keeping our flagships in 12, but pretty much if it feels even remotely optional to go in a 16, we're being thrust into that market, maybe more so than we would have on our own volition. And that's just based on the availability. So you're going to see a lot more 16-ounce cans from us. I'd like to think some of it is intentional. Like the one that I think will be really sought after and people will get really excited for, specifically from Silver Branch, is we're doing an Italian dry hop Pilsner called Vespucci Connection. That's coming at the end of October. So that will be my next experiment, selling lager approximate to hazy, to see if I can get people as excited about lager as I can about hazy IPA. So I'm really, really pumped for that beer. And then when Christmas time rolls around, we're gonna put gnomes on everything. I think we have like 4 or 5 different Belgian beers coming out all around Christmas time, and they're all high gravity. And I think that's just like, we can't control ourselves. I think we just wanted to make a lot of Belgian stuff. But yeah, I mean, otherwise we're reinstating our Thursday gravity lagers. Which is something that previously people got really excited for with us. And I'm hopeful that for the people that are interested in coming back out to the tap room, that that's something that they can start looking forward to again on a weekly basis. For a while there was nothing. And then, there was a little bit of periodic events. And now I think for the first time ever, we feel like, because it's putting beer in a glass, but it's a special beer, every single week we're doing a lot of, dry hop variants of our flagship Pilsner Glass Castle and stuff. So I'm pretty excited for that. So yeah,
Cool.
that's what's coming up.
I'm there. I missed the Gravity Keg for Oktoberfest, and then I saw people online saying, I didn't make it in time. So I was like, okay, the Gravity Keg did not need my drinking. It did all right without me, which is the best.
Gravity Kegs, they went fast before COVID. I was surprised to see how fast they've managed to go after COVID. So it's positive feedback loop. Great.
Well, I was asked to land this plane at 7:30, and it is 7:29. So I want to just thank everyone for spending the time on this call today. I asked you guys to be here because I love you as people, and you make amazing beer. And I know that your days are long and trying, especially during these times. And I appreciate your making time to hang out with us and share what it is that you've been through. You're an inspiration for those of us who have it easier, and also for those of us who are going through it right now. So thank you. You will see me and hopefully everyone else here in your tasting rooms, having a beer and hanging out in the near future. So thanks again.
Thank you, Phil.
Yep.